Again, it's a primitive, 1% of the population conservatively, sociologists and psychologists have studied it. On average, 1% are psychopaths. And they don't just not have feelings, they're sadistic psychopaths. They enjoy pain. And through thousands of years, they are always going to end up getting in control. You may have some good governments, but they're rare. And once they get into control, they go hog wild mad. And they always demand children. They like to torture innocent children. That's the funnest thing. And they got to give them to Quetzalcoatl. They've got to give them to Chocmool. They've got to give them to Samhain. They've got to give them to Marduk. They've got to give it to Astaroth. They've got to give it to Beelzebub. They've got to give it to Horus. They've got to give it to Moloch. They've got to give, and again, I want to explain this. The reason these different, and the globalists divide and conquer, the reason they obsess in divide and conquer on always having a myth of only the Catholics are evil, or only the Jews are evil, and all evil flows, or only white man is evil, or only black men are evil. They've got the mark of Cain on them, and so they deserve to be slaves. 500 years ago with the start of the transatlantic slave trade into the Americas. It's always an excuse to dehumanize a group. And so then people can't recognize the evil of their own organization because it's only that outside group that's evil. The Jews, they say, are inherently the seed of the devil. The blacks are inherently the seed of the devil. The white man is inherently every group, the black groups, the Royal Israelite groups, they believe all the whites and Jews are the devil. And then the other groups believe the blacks are the devil. And of course, you've got psychopaths that are Jewish groups, that are feeding on their own people, getting them to go under their control through the outside threat. We have the Zionist documents where they like their people to get persecuted. They have to. They finance groups to do it, to bomb Jewish. This is declassified by the British and the Jews in Israel, that they would bomb the ancient Jewish communities in Iran, and the ancient communities in Syria, and the ancient communities in Spain, and the ancient communities in Iraq to make them go to Israel. They would pay Hitler to not let the Jews leave anywhere but to Israel, and then to pay the Zionist money to get out. There have been major university publications written by Jews about that. That's a microcosm. The obsession on Jews is that by only saying Jews or one other group, but that's a good example, are evil, then you can't recognize the inherent psychopaths in your own group. It allows the elites to divide and conquer, but it also allows the psycho groups over the Catholics, over the Jews, over the Protestants, over the military. It's all cults, brainwashing, marching, sleep deprivation, shaved heads, identity, flags, colors, groups, gangs, cults. Everything is ancient mind control. And that's why they order you must body scan as an act of supplication, of submission. You must take your shoes off. You must answer questions. It's all about submission. And so again, you have psychopaths of all these major groups. Instead of just saying, oh, the leadership of Germany or the leadership of China or the leadership of Israel or the leadership of Iran is evil. No, that group becomes evil. Then we never recognize the truth. It is a 1% psychopath guild that have developed systems of con artistry and manipulation to build a planet where they can carry out their operations. Aaron Dykes.
I agree, too. I think the riddle of the racism is that the only group they really respect is their own aristocracy, but really only the ones who are willing to take control and, quote, do what must be done for, quote, the Constitution.
Do what must be done, Lord Vader. Kill the younglings. You must kill the innocents to prove you're a psycho. And the priest class always demands children and women be killed as an act of total submission.
Yeah, and they want to eliminate the race so the Superman race can rise, but really they all have fatal flaws and they're evil, wicked people, and that's not
all of these elitists who don't end up getting killed or executed die. I don't even want to say how they all end up eating their own excrement, crazy, thinking they're God. It's admitted that Lenin would go to a little island he had with thousands of white rabbits. They ended up putting that in a Hollywood movie separately where the crazy guy pops the back of the car and throws out the rabbits and is running around shooting them with a shotgun. And he would just run around stabbing them and killing them and shooting them and just flopping around. And he would order them more blood, more death. And that we have that in a clip coming up.
Yeah, I think Franco in Spain liked to hunt an entire field of quail and he wasn't satisfied till there was thousands of them. He didn't even like to eat them. He just liked to kill. He would have others help him kill. It's, I I guess it's something they do. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to have you back in. I get in here and start ranting, want to give people all the data. But think about every human culture turns into human sacrifice, enslavement, and war. It's an act of utter submission because psychopaths like the same thing, whether it's Ted Bundy or whether it was, the king of the Aztecs, Montezuma. It's the same deal. Let's play this Mussolini worshiping clip. Here he is worshiping Mussolini, the head liberal that they all worship, George Bernard Shaw.
The other thing for instance, now that is what I call my Mussolini study. They, by the way, I think in justice to Signor Mussolini, I ought to tell you that he has a very wonderful head. He has a wonderful brow which comes down to here. But the difficulty is that he can't take it off. Now, if you watch me, I can put on that imposing look that terrifies, the Mussolini look.
Then he howls Hitler.
Watch.
Then he does the fascist salute.
I can take it off. Now, Signor Mussolini cannot take it off. He is condemned, although he is a most amiable man, he is condemned to go through life with that terrible and imposing expression.
He's amiable,
which really
he's good.
Does a great deal of injustice to his kindly nature. But I can put it on, and I can take it off.
And he goes on to say how great Mussolini is. And in his writings, he praised Hitler, he praised Mussolini, and he believed, we're going to play that clip coming up, that everyone should be nerve gassed. Go ahead and read some quotes.
Yeah, it's there's a riddle in there because he calls Mussolini kindly and amiable. It's in his quotes, too. If under socialism, you would not be allowed to be poor. You would be forcibly fed, clothed, lodged, taught, and employed, whether you like it or not. And if it were discovered that you had not the character and industry enough to be worth all this trouble, you might be possibly executed in a kindly manner.
And see, once you're in a socialist system, we've got to kill people because they're not pulling their weight.
And he calls for the humane gas. It's a death that's instant and painless, but it's death nonetheless. That's the nature of the quotes that he puts forward. And you find H.G. Wells says the same kind of thing. And that's what they did in Nazi Germany and under communism.
Let's go to the next clip in Fluoride in the Water. The Soviets started that. Let's go to the next clip. First part's in German. Then it's Shaw talking how great about eugenics and control is. In fact, Aaron, tell us about this clip coming up.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It's how he wants to forcibly execute people who are not deemed worthwhile to live. It is eugenics, but it's also socialism.
And now the cover of Newsweek, the case for killing Granny. Here it is. Why killing is essential.
First appeared in January 1849 in Marx's journal, Neue Rheinische Zeitung. Engels wrote of how the class war in Marxian terms means that when socialist revolution happens, the class war happens, there will be primitive societies in Europe 2 stages behind, because they're not even capitalist yet. And he had in mind the Basques and the Bretons and the Scottish Highlanders and the Serbs, and he calls them racial trash, Abfälle, racial trash, and they will have to be destroyed because being 2 stages behind in historical struggle, it will be impossible to bring them up.
See, Marx and Engels both wrote, and this would be in British newspapers, we're going to kill the Scots, we're going to kill the Serbs, and notice who they attack, the Serbs. Anyone who wants to be rural and just a regular human, you must be killed because you can't be part of the scientific dictatorship. And then Russell comes up, they cut back to a clip of him saying do that.
I couldn't agree more. It's very shocking.
Bertrand Russell said the same stuff, George Bernard Shaw, all of them.
See, the thing with British Fabian socialism is they believe specifically in the long-term incremental socialism, and to hide the true nature of socialism from the people who believed it was for the common good. And you see other founders like Webb, the Webb parents, They went to Russia and came back. It was said as the 10 Commandments they had in their hands. They loved what was being done over there. They just knew they couldn't do it as quickly.
They want to line you up and kill you and then take your daughters and sons and rape them as they slit their throats.